This episode was made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. You guys really mean a lot to us. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Lore of the Land video, brought to you by Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex and today we'll be examining a planeswalker who is a personal favourite of mine. So, without further ado, let's begin. The events of this video are up to date as of the release of Core Set 2020. The Predator knows the true way of the world. Life is conflict. Only the strong survive. It was the day of Garruk's 10th birthday. His father, Raklan, a task mage and a farmer of a small village, showed him how to cast his first spell. A simple one to be sure, used to help the crops grow from the soil using the power of mana. As they stood in the fields near their home, Raklan took his son's hand and placed a seed within it. He told his son to feel the energy of the seed, to feel the earth beneath his feet. Focusing, the young Garruk was able to make the seed sprout in his hand, green mana flowing from within it. Not long after this joyous occasion, the sheriff of the town arrived at the family's home. He had come for Garruk. Their nation was at war and the sheriff and his men had come to draft the young boy into the military. Raklan refused, stopping the men from taking his son. Before the altercation erupted, Raklan had handed Garruk a leaf, formed into the shape of a face. He told his son that this would be how he would communicate with him. Raklan urged his son to run into the forest and not return until he told him to. Garruk ran into the thick woods as his father held off the sheriff's forces. Through the leaf, Garruk could hear his father's cries of rebellion, swearing off the sheriff and all he stood for. As he ran, Garruk heard his father being subdued, beaten, and branded as a traitor. Garruk continued to run, fleeing further and further into the forest. At the same time, his father was being dragged off by the sheriff to be imprisoned for his insubordination. But despite this, Raklan still reassured his son, ushering words of love and duty through the leaf. One such phrase would stick with Garruk throughout his entire life. Nature is your best ally. You must trust in the forest and what it has to offer. And Garruk, remember this most of all. Anyone who can speak can lie. Expect deceit. With one final word of love from his imprisoned father, the leaf fell silent. When Garruk moved further into the forest, great beasts set upon him. The creatures were humongous, larger than the boy's home. He could not run and could certainly not fight. But Garruk remembered what his father had taught him. He held his breath, felt the earth beneath his feet, and felt the mana flow through him. And for the first time, Garruk reached out and touched the beast. The snarling monster calmed, its teeth abated back as the boy's magic flowed through it. The boy slept that first night in the forest, surrounded by its animals, uncertain, but not afraid. For the years that followed, Garruk lived in that forest, feeding from the land, understanding its animals and all manner of feral beasts that dwelled within it. During this time, Garruk learned how to call out to creatures of all shapes and sizes, and how to bend them to his will. Following a decade of self-imposed exile, Garruk finally returned to civilization. Using his powers and the creatures of the forest, he wreaked havoc amongst the populace, and eventually was able to avenge his father's wrongful imprisonment and eventual death. After killing the sheriff, Garruk wandered back into the forest, forsaking civilization entirely. It was some time later that Garruk, through unknown events, acquired his Planeswalker Spark. Through this newfound power, the hunter was able to travel between the planes of existence, growing in strength and adding more and more creatures to his menagerie. They call me monster. They are wrong. I am hundreds. It was during one such hunt that one of his beasts crossed the path of a powerful necromancer and began to charge her. Springing forth dark vines, the witch immobilized and crushed the beast. This necromancer had now earned the wrath of Garruk, and was none other than Liliana Vess. Upon finding his beast and feeling the dark mana around it, Garruk began to track Liliana to have her answer for the murder of one of his own. Little did he know the necromancer had been tasked by demons to procure a powerful artifact. Liliana made her way to an abandoned mausoleum, and it was here that Garruk finally caught up to her. He demanded answers for her killing, but Liliana's answer only came in the form of mockery. The two planeswalkers clashed, tearing through the mausoleum. Initially, Garruk overpowered the necromancer with his summons and brute strength. During this conflict, however, Liliana found the item that she had been looking for, the Chain Veil. Using its power, Liliana easily subdued and cursed Garruk, leaving his body and mind deeply corrupted. Liliana was then able to escape the huntsman and planeswalked away. Garruk awoke within the abandoned tomb, rubble all around him. Seeking an escape, he summoned a familiar to aid him in moving the debris which blocked his path. But it was not just his body that had been corrupted. The warm and concentrated green mana that once flowed from his hand instead turned dark and distorted. The beast he summoned was deformed beyond its normality, reeking of death. Garruk understood that the curse ran deep within him, affecting everything that he had. With a heavy heart, Garruk put the creature out of its pain, and began the long task of moving the rubble himself. Upon freeing himself, Garruk found that he could no longer feel the nature around him. He had been completely cut off from the earth. Garruk resolved to try and find a cure for his curse, but Liliana's trail had gone completely cold. The only possible lead he had was to visit a planeswalker he had met long ago. With the resolution to lift his curse, Garruk set off to visit a plane he swore he would never return to, the sprawling city metropolis of Ravnica. Here he would find an old acquaintance, Jace Beleren. Upon arrival, Garruk quickly tracked down and cornered the telepath. Despite his precautions and defenses, Jace was no match for the now cursed hunter. This is not a negotiation. This is not a contest of wills. This is you telling me where the witch is. After learning all that he could from Jace, Garruk left Ravnica in search of the one who had cursed him. Garruk spent a long time wandering through the multiverse, eventually finding his way to the remote plane of Innistrad. Upon arriving, Garruk quickly set about tracking the witch down, a task that grew harder and harder by the day, with the curse that beset him clawing away at his very sanity. Eventually, Garruk was able to find Liliana, demanding she lift the curse that had been set upon him. A fight broke out, however this time Garruk had been gripped by malice. He overpowered Liliana, throwing her to the ground, wrapping his hands around her throat. Using her powers, Liliana summoned a horde of ghouls to help combat the ferocious hunter. Garruk cut through each of them like paper, but the distraction they caused allowed Liliana enough time to escape. Garruk fended off the undead horde, killing every one of the vile creatures. But the constant exertion, combined with the weight of his curse, caused him to collapse. When Garruk awoke, all he felt was death and decay all around him. From the ghouls to the swamp he lay in. Then, one of his beasts, something he must have summoned during the confrontation with Liliana, approached him. The beast was clearly in pain and could barely stand. Garruk looked at the beast, and it began to speak to him. Voices and madness consumed Garruk, swirling all around him, barely able to discern his past from his current present. But as he fell further and further into this madness, a mysterious white light cut through it, bathing him in a warm, white glow. When the light faded, he was cured. His blackened veins were gone. He could feel nature's touch once again. But, as quickly as it had left, the curse set back in, and the world became cold once more. This had been the Curse Mute, a spell cast by Archangel Avacyn to help the werewolves of her plane, which had the unintentional effect of helping Garruk as well. He searched his surroundings and was able to pick up Liliana's trail. However, pursuing the necromancer would lead him away from the source of the curse mute, a potential alternative cure for his worsening state. He considered leaving his hunt, trying instead to find the light's source. But ultimately, he decided to pursue his target. Sighting, it was all he had known for so long. As Garruk traveled through the multiverse, an agent of Avacyn's would stand before him. Vronos, a fellow planeswalker and former knight of Avacyn, had been sent to retrieve the hunter so that he could be healed. Garruk either did not hear or did not wish to hear Vronos' words. They erupted into a battle of attrition, strength and beasts against reassembling Ethereum servants. Garruk won this fight with overbearing strength. He tracked down a wounded Vronos and killed him, taking his mask as a trophy. Garruk continued like this, killing throughout the multiverse, choosing not to hunt animals, but instead to target planeswalkers. This menace eventually garnered the attention of Ravnica's living guild pact, Jace Beleren, a man Garruk had already once nearly killed. To prevent the curse spreading, Jace placed a small hedron inside Garruk's chest to stall its progress. And for a time, it worked. Still wishing to free Garruk of his curse, Jace sent other planeswalkers to bring him to Ravnica. Each one, unfortunately, met the same fate as Vronos, dying at the end of Garruk's axe. Jace now independently began to share Avacyn's fear that Garruk would turn into a demonic abomination, becoming a true threat to the multiverse. As a last effort, Jace confronted Garruk himself. The fight was quick, Garruk smashing through the telepath's illusions and once again squeezing Jace by the throat. Jace continued to plead with Garruk to seek help, to prevent himself from becoming a monster. But when Jace looked into his mind, he found no confusion or madness. The huntsman's mind was clear. All of his actions were his own. Garruk released Jace with the promise to stop hunting for him. Jace agreed and disappeared back into Ravnica. With Jace dealt with, the only other concern of Garruk was Avacyn. Shortly after his confrontation with Jace, one final agent of hers, an ice mage, tried to bring Garruk back. Their meeting ended with Garruk's axe at his neck. Now he was free, lost to both forces of Ravnica and Innistrad. Garruk was now who he wanted to be, free to go where he wished, unmolested by the forces of Jace or Avacyn. He had come to terms with his curse, and halted its progress. He was now able to move on from his endless hunt for Liliana, to truly be himself once more. And that is our video on Garruk Wildspeaker. We hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of our cursed hunter? And who would you like to see featured in our next lore video? Whatever your thoughts, leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. Also, you can follow us on Twitter @4commander, and if you really like us, you could consider becoming a patron of the channel. Links to all of this are in the description, and as always, we'll see you next time.